class. This is Mrs. Wyndham again. We are going to be learning how to divide up our paper to be able to draw movie posters. And I have some examples of some ideas in the background. You can see that I have some books and some movies. You can also use your favorite video game to do this. What we are trying to do is stylize a basic poster design so that it will look similar to the original. We are actually going to start with this particular movie cover. It's an old movie, King Kong movie. It was one of the originals. I liked it simply because of the simplified lettering and the fact that it is bold lettering on top of the cover. So we are going to do a very simple design and allow you to design however you want to underneath, but it's all about the lettering right now. All right, we are going to start with the image of the movie right now. They're trying to figure out which way that the paper needs to be organized. In this case, it needs to be a vertical organization rather than horizontal, which would be wider than it is tall. In this case, we are doing the vertical, and we can use a ruler for this, but it's really not necessary. If you would like, you can actually just fold your paper in half and fold it in half again. Unfold it, and it gives you automatically lines that you could actually divide up into text lines. In this case, our King Kong would go up in this text, and then our image would go below. We are going to start with the King Kong up here, but we want to do something before that. We need to divide it in half this way, which is actually horizontally, because we want to be able to see where the center of our artwork is going to be. If you need to, you can actually take a pencil and mark where the center point is, and if you need to, you can also outline that top line so that you can see what you're doing. We also would like at this point to come down maybe a half of an inch from the top. Again, you do not have to measure this, but you do need to have a straight line through there. So if you just take the side of a book or a straight edge of any sort and create a line so that it gives you a little bit of spacing at the very top. If you don't have this spacing, sometimes what happens is you get too crowded along the top of the paper, and then you can't fit the entire image on there. We are going to start with the words King Kong as our basis, so we need to know how many letters are in this. I typically will write it on a scrap piece of paper and then number my letters and the space. That way I do not make the mistake of having too many letters on one side of my divide and not enough on the other, or squishing it in too far. And I'll explain to you here in a minute what I mean by that. In this case, we know that 5 is the center. If this were a word that had an odd number of letters, or if this was a sentence, then the odd number would be in the center. But this is divided up evenly with King and Kong on either side. So all we have to do is look at the 2 letters that are closest to the center and start with those. In this case, I want to make sure, just as we would in elementary school, I'm creating a dotted line across here so that if we know that it is a capital letter, it needs to touch both the top and the bottom letter. If we were using lowercase, they would touch the dotted line. But in this case, since they are capital, they'll touch both the top and the bottom of. Remember to always start from the center and work your way out, making sure that you have an equal number of letters You also need to make sure that you have plenty of spacing along the end and the beginning. I always start from the last word and work backwards. Blocking and stylizing your lettering is important. Make sure your stick letters are traced around evenly, keeping the same distance from the center of the letter. Also note that the style of the lettering reflects the original. Notice that the K's are short on the top and longer on the bottom, as well as the G's look more like C's. When it comes to the image, we do not want an exact replica of the original, but a general drawing that reflects the important parts of the image. In this case, we are using the buildings as a base and more of a silhouette than a perspective building. The sky and spotlights are used to focus our attention on the lettering, and instead of drawing a full-size King Kong, we are shrinking him on top of one of the buildings. Finally, we clean up the drawing before we start coloring. Start by tracing around the letters first with the colors. If you need to outline, use permanent marker so that the colors do not smear. It is also a good idea to color from light to dark so that there is less bleeding within the pigments. So this is what our final project looks like. It doesn't look exactly like the original, but it's close.